We are now live on Wednesday evening, and I'm really mega excited about tonight, everybody, because I have got some incredible gentlemen to come and share their stories, their views, their thoughts, their experiences, their successes, and maybe some of their skepticism from the early days of when they first joined Forever. See, Paul's making a face there. Before I do that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Jane. I've been with Forever now for over 26 years. And when I first looked at Forever, I was definitely at a crossroads in my life where I realized that if I didn't look for something different, my life would be pretty much the same as it was at that point. And that wasn't really where I wanted to be. You know, I didn't have any work, time, life balance. I was always financially challenged. I had no way to really scale my income and secure an income for the future. And also to create something of real value, not just for me, but for the next generation. So when I was introduced to Forever, I was massively excited. I was one of those people that saw the potential immediately, got myself involved, started using the product, started using a few key skills, applying a few key skills. And here we are 26 years on. I've built a business in over 40 countries around the world. Literally multi-million turnover business, and live a very incredible lifestyle indeed. And I'm very grateful for that. But what I really love more than anything on the journey to success, and success is relevant to all of us. For me, it's about the people you meet. It's about the characters you meet. It's about seeing them at a point in their life where maybe they've got challenges, but they're open-minded, and some of them are open-minded. They're open-minded and ready maybe to take a look at the opportunity. So tonight I want to introduce you to Gary and to Paul. We do have Andy trying to come on, but he's got a few technical issues at the moment. So I know it was billed as the three, Andy, Gary and Paul, but we've got just the two of them at the moment. So we're going to make a start, and if Andy can get on, great, we'll pop him into the feed, and if not, then I know these guys have got some great words of wisdom for you. So I am going to start with you, Paul, because I know that you've been in the business. You've been in the business now, is it 20 odd years?
Yeah, 21 years in June.
Is it really?
Yeah. Doesn't time fly?
Well, you know, it does actually, because I can remember as if it were yesterday, kind of meeting you and you know, getting to know you a bit more. So I think before, you know, I don't want to steal your thunder. I think tell us a little bit about your background, and do tell us how you got involved in Forever, because it wasn't necessarily with an open heart to begin with, was it?
No, and I probably wouldn't recommend this way to join Forever or to get involved with Forever. But going all the way back to June 2000, it was my wife, Claire, that got introduced really to go to what we now call, I guess, a product launch or a business launch at somebody's house. And it was a neighbor. We'd literally moved on to a new development, and we were the first people, and she was the second person to move in. She was directly opposite us. And Claire got invited to do that. And I agreed that would be a really good idea for Claire. Claire was at work at the time that she asked us. I said she'd love that. And I remember so clearly, Jane, there was a game of football on that night. And I thought, this will leave me in peace to watch the football. So Claire went and then came running back that night and said that she was really excited and found something. And I must say, I'm from a traditional upbringing. Let's put it that way. I was brought up in a household where you went to work, you did your hours, and you got paid for your hours. So I was very traditional in the way that I'd been brought up. But also, I was in a traditional engineering business. So there's two things that took place. One was health and nutrition, and what I was doing within engineering, they were a country mile apart. I mean, I had no interest at that particular time in my life. But also, I was used to going to work as an engineer, and I progressed through the engineering life surrounded predominantly by men. And I went to work and I got paid, and then I did some overtime if I wanted something special, and if I wanted to do something to the house, whatever it might be. And that's how my life was. So when somebody introduced me to a new way, I just couldn't bring myself to believe it. And I was ultra skeptical. I think often people thought I was a little bit rude. I wasn't intentionally rude. I was just very, very skeptical as to how this could possibly be something that could give us a great lifestyle. I got paid very well anyway in what I was doing, but I had to put a lot of time and effort in. I missed majority of our children growing up. So I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that we eventually could do. So I did the protective husband bit. I think that's probably the best way for me to describe it, Jane. And I went everywhere with Claire. I never tried to stop Claire doing it. But what I did do was try to find a reason why this can't be true, because it's still in the back of my mind, didn't sit right with me. And to be honest, Jane, after months of going through this, I couldn't find anything. If anything, it was a breath of fresh air to be involved and surrounded by people in Forever. So I started to support Claire more then, and literally, to cut a long story a little bit shorter, in June 2003, just short of 3 years of being involved in the business, it had allowed Claire to finish her 2 part-time jobs, and also for me to finish my career at that particular time as a sales director selling machinery to the engineering industry. So I'd done engineering right up to that point. And from that point in 2003, Forever Living and what we do today, that's all we've done as a couple now, and built our business there. So to go from skeptical, I guess you could say I'm really pleased I was, in a way, because it allowed me to do due diligence really and understand what it was. So then when I did commit to it, I was all in, because I just had to get on with it. And it was a different way of life, but it was a decision that was well worth making.
And I think, it's fair to say you were skeptical, but it was healthy skepticism.
Absolutely.
And I personally, from my own experience, when I'm working with anybody, as long as somebody's a healthy skeptic, they will have a lot of questions, which you did. And, if you can kind of, cross the T's and dot the I's, and you begin to get an understanding of it. It's almost like, at the beginning, too good to be true. But the reality is, we all know it is true. But I'm totally with you there. It's a mind shift from doing a sort of a 9 to 5, very much a male orientated career, to suddenly having to shift your thinking completely.
Absolutely.
And work a different way. And certainly you and Claire have created an unbelievable lifestyle for you and your family, and we'll come back to that a bit in a minute.
And I think on the skeptical thing as well, Jane, I think skepticism is healthy, and we shouldn't be frightened of skeptical views, because all that is that it just means that, and people are more skeptical than others, it just means they need more questions answering. But once you've answered the questions in the correct way, and they can then calculate it and put it into their mind, okay, that now makes sense. You run out of questions, your skeptical side disappears. Exactly. So it's actually quite healthy. Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And for me personally, whenever I'm working with anybody, I really love it when they engage and ask the questions, because it means it's a keen interest, even though some of the questions may be a little difficult. I'm going to bring Andy on. He's here. Well done, Andy. Great job. It's our greatest friend and sometimes our biggest frustration. I'll let you just breathe a bit, and I'm just going to go to Gary. And Gary, I think you're relatively the newbie in the group here. How long have you been in Forever, and what was your background?
Okay, so my background, well, I've been with Forever for about 18 months now, and I can say, I'm really loving it. I really, really am. My background, I've always thought of myself as a little bit of an entrepreneur. I'd like to think that way. A little bit different to Paul, because I was looking for something like Forever. I really was. And when Fiona, my wife, told me that she'd been speaking to Tina about Forever, it was definitely something for me, because my background, I've worked a couple of businesses of my own. I loved my photography business. I've done a lot of wedding photography. I've done this for about 10 years. Okay. Again, like I said, I really, really did like the business, but it became very seasonal, and I just wasn't getting enough work to keep me going at the time. So I had to look for something else. I then looked, and I trained as a driving instructor. The driving instructor wasn't my dream job. It was just something for. Right, it was a couple of years training, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go for this and see how it goes. And I knew it would pay my bills, and that was the main thing at the time. So I've been a driving instructor for the last, I think it's about 10 years now. And like I said, it's not a dream job, but it paid the bills. But the last couple of years, you know, the security and income's just not been there. And obviously with what's going on now with COVID, it's just been not a great business to be in. So when I came across Forever, you know, I could still see a way of being my own boss, you know, but with real security, which I didn't have before with my driving, and still being able to spend time. I mean, I'm lucky enough to live right near the coast, and I love the coast. I'd spend all my life there if I could, and I'm lucky enough to live close to it. And I used to be out on driving lessons, teaching people. I was in the place that I, you know, dreamed that I really wanted to be, but I was looking out the window thinking, I wish I was down there. You know, I wish I had some quality time with my wife to spend down there, walking the dogs, surfing, swimming. That's the sort of thing that I love doing. So when I found Forever, it's given me that quality time to be able to do that sort of thing, which I really love now. And so, yeah, really happy.
You can pick up your surfboard and go to the beach whenever you want now.
I do. I've been there today. I've been in this morning. So, yeah, which was good.
And that's
I really do love that.
Yeah, that's the flexibility and the freedom you get when you're working your own business, which is what Forever allows you to do, because you pick and choose the hours you want to work.
Certainly. Whereas with Forever, it's great because I work around. You know, I can work the hours that I want to do, but although I was self-employed and it was my own business driving, it was much harder to be able to choose those times, because I had to really go with, you know, all the pupils that I was teaching.
Exactly. So really, even though it was your own business, you were still restricted to those hours of when you could do your driving. So Forever's allowed you to be on the beach every day surfing. That can't be bad.
Oh, she loves coming down there as well. She likes doing her beach grass and things like that. So we have a great time.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Gary. Andy, you can breathe now. Tell us a bit about you, your background, and gosh, how long have you been in Forever now?
If you'd say when the wife joined the business, 18 years, but I say from me leaving work was 8 years ago. That's when I thoroughly threw myself into Forever. And I look back now, I think, why did I wait? But we all can say that, can't we? My background was in the catering industry. So I was a chef. I spent 12 years as a chef in the kitchens. And then I got involved in the sales of chilled food to the hotel and restaurant sector. And it was something I absolutely loved, because it was no split shifts, Monday to Friday, company car. And because I used to be a chef, I could relate back to the chefs, and I was really successful. But anybody that's in sales will know you're only as good as your last year's figures. And every year, the targets kept going further and further away. And every year I'd be working. When I first started in sales, it was 40 hours, if I'm honest with you. I could wing it a little bit. But every year, you used to get 40 hours, 50 hours. And before I knew it, I go back to, it was 2012. I've been in sales 20 plus years, probably 60 hours a week. And you might think, well, that seems a lot. But when you actually think, we had a BlackBerry then. I only ever turned my BlackBerry off on a Friday afternoon. And then I put it back on again Sunday. And that was me 24/7. If an email or anything came on, you never let go of it. It's something that's you just can't stop.
So what was it then that really attracted you to Forever? Because obviously you were doing well in your career, even though you were time poor. What was it attracted you to this company and the opportunity?
What attracted me was I went to a particular event with Forever. This was at the beginning of 2013. And I just looked around this room full of people, and it was a Sunday afternoon. I'll never, ever forget it. It was a Sunday afternoon. My stomach was in knots because I was getting ready for the next day. And I looked around and I just thought, why is these people who are doing this business? Paul was one of them. I hate you, Paul. Paul was one of them, smiling his head off. And I was thinking, I want some of that. I don't want this stress that I've built up. I've had enough of it.
Yeah.
And that's when I just thought, what's the worst that can happen? Because when I looked at Angela, I suppose because she was really successful, I was sort of not that confident in what I was doing with Forever. But I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I'll stay at work a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Before I knew it, within 6 months of me taking that decision in 2013, 6 months, I'd left work. That was 8 years ago.
I love that. So 6 months after you made the decision to start building your business,
Yeah,
you're able to give up work and focus full time on the opportunity.
absolutely.
That's incredible. Incredible. Paul, I'm going to come back to you because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Yep.
What was the defining moment when you realized you got your hands on something really special?
I think for me, Jane, it was, we'd been on a trip. Me and Claire had been on a holiday and was coming back on an airplane. And while we were over there, we kept hearing about people that were having success. And of course, this wasn't through social media. This was through good old phone calls and things like this.
Yeah.
You know, we had none of that. I was just thinking that as I was watching it then. Back in the day, I mean, only the year 2000, we couldn't have done this. It was just an impossible thing to do. But no, for me, it was actually watching people. And I just suddenly thought to myself, wait a minute. If those people can achieve these things, why can't I?
Yeah.
Because I realized that there's no magic bullet necessarily. It was just hard work, dedication, focus. And I could see that the people that were getting recognized were doing those things. And it was just a case. I remember turning to Claire on the plane and said, we've just got to do this. And we're going to give it a year. And I'm not going to moan and groan about it. I'm just going to give it a year. And I can't even remember what that date would have been because it just then all just went into one, Jane. But it was literally, for me, was seeing the success that other people were having and realizing that actually, if I just got over myself a little bit, then we can have a portion of that as well. And that's exactly what happened.
And, you know, it has given you and the family an incredible life. What's been one of your most proudest moments? Or I know that there's been so many.
Leaving work, you know, often people think it must have been leaving work for me. And it kind of wasn't, Jane, in a way, because I was terrified the day I left work. Yeah, because you all of a sudden leaving something to go to something, even though you know it's going to work, you've got that little bit of happiness, sadness. It was all these things going around in your mind. And the fact I'd given that particular industry 17 years of my life full on, and within 3 years of working something part-time, I'd increased my income. So it was quite annoying in a way. So that was, but for me, I think one of the biggest highlights of the, and one of them is travel, but I can't put that as one event because we have been to so many places. It's frightening when you go through it. But for us, it was, well, for me, certainly was when we got a chairman's bonus check. It was called profit share, I think, at the time, for more than $100,000 in one end of year bonus check. And that was, and I remember it very clearly on the stage, and all the checks were creeping up and was at 96,000, the person in front of us. And I thought, we're going to fall just short of 100,000 here. And it was just over $100,000 in an end of year bonus. And
that was an end of year bonus. That's on top of all the monthly income that you'd earned.
It doesn't matter how much money you earn. $100,000 is a lot of money. It doesn't matter who you are. It's a lot of money.
Putting that into context, Paul, you know, you worked hard for 17, 18 years in a career, which was, you know, well-renowned career. Did you ever get an end of year bonus like that?
Never, nowhere near. You know, I got paid well, Jane, but I mean, nothing like that. I mean, that was on top of our income. That was on top of our monthly income that was exceeding my job anyway. So, you know, it's just allowed us to do so much. It's hard. Sometimes I find it quite hard to say because it does sound like it's too good to be true for somebody who's looking for the first time. But the reality is, and you've got to be authentic and be yourself. The reality is it's changed the way we live our life and have lived our life for the last 20 years. Simple as that. I did a calculation you might find really interesting, Jane. I did this the other day and I showed it to Claire yesterday. And I was started thinking about a national average wage. And I found out all the way from 2000 what the national average wage was for every single year. And from year 3, and our first year was only 6 months. The second year was a year. From year 3, we've exceeded the national average wage every single year since, and often by a hell of a lot, as you can imagine, when you're picking up checks like that. And I just thought to myself, that is unbelievable. From a zero start to do that over that period of time, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I think for me personally, with you guys, it's seeing the lifestyle that you've created for the boys. You know, they were tiny when you first started. Now they're young men. But they have literally traveled the world. They have experienced things that they would never have experienced
Absolutely.
if you were in traditional jobs and careers.
Definitely. I mean, it's been incredible. I mean, if you go through and you go through where you've actually been, and you go through, you know, I don't know if you've seen the apps where you can actually tick off where you've been, and you actually start thinking, oh, I forgot that one. I forgot that one. I forgot that one. I mean, we have, and the lads, I mean, they're just well-traveled lads, you know, they're 25 and 23, I think it is now. And they are, is that right? Yeah, yes. But I think it's right. But they're well-traveled lads. And you know, it's nice to have been able to show them the world, and 90% of the time paid for by Forever, because we've worked hard and we've, you know, been rewarded for the work that we've done. Well,
I think I seem to remember one year, probably about 6-7 years ago, when you were actually out of the country holidaying more than you were in the country.
Yeah, we have. And I'll say another one, James, just while we're on the subject of this, which is quite interesting. I remember when Joe was 11 and it was our first rally. And I remember that his birthday was while we was away. And when you're on your first rally, you're thinking, should we go? Shouldn't we go? Is it right? Is it right? I remember you and John saying to me, you know, you need to go on this. It'll change your life. I'm thinking, well, it's another holiday. It's whatever. So I remember Claire in tears as she was waving Joe off, and it was his birthday the following day. And a few years later, he stayed with my mum and dad at the time. So we had his birthday party. He had one before we went. He had one when we got back. So he was well chuffed.
You're right.
I remember talking to him as an adult only 3 or 4 years ago. He doesn't remember that. He has no recollection of that at all. But the following year, as a result of us going on this trip and being inspired by Forever and the training we got, etc., the following year, we did a 4-week trip from Hawaii and through America, a road trip with the lads. Let me tell you, he remembers every restaurant we ate in.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember that year before, but that was a result of what we did there, and the learning we got from that allowed us then to do that the following year.
I can totally relate to that, because we took our boys on a road trip, Highway 1, and down to San Diego, and
it's amazing.
LA, and then we went over to Hawaii, spent 2 weeks on the beach there. Gary, you would have loved it because the surfing was unreal.
I'm really looking forward to this.
I remember when we did that trip, you told us you'd done a trip very similar with your boys. Amazing.
And, you know, we didn't have to ask a boss. We didn't have to worry about the cost of it. We just booked it. We went and enjoyed it.
Yep.
So, Andy, I want to come back to you, because you've created something quite special, because it's not just you and Angela. It's kind of a family thing for you.
Absolutely. I remember it was about a year. I've been doing Forever. So I'd left work. So this was going to start 2014. And Brittany was, I'm like you, Paul. I think I'm clueless with ages. Anyway, Brit's 31 now with George 33. So at the time, Brittany says, Dad, I want to see more about Forever Living. So I showed her the business. She decided to join us. And 2 weeks later, my son, Jordan, he's quite competitive. And he says, what's Brit doing, Dad? I said, well, she's joined us in Forever. He went, right, can I do it? I said, of course you can, Jordan. But we're business partners. I'm not your mum and dad when it comes to Forever. He went, fair enough, Dad. And they went on to drive really, really big businesses. And when you asked Paul about what one of the things that's sort of you remember so much over the 8 years that I've been in Forever, when Angela and myself got married, we was 21. It was about 5 years ago. And so we moved to live in South Africa, and we stayed there for a couple of years. And the only holiday we had when we was in South Africa was we went to Warm Baths. That was back in the day.
Yeah.
And then in 2016 or 17, you'll have to, if I'm right or wrong, we qualified to go to South Africa as this end of year bonus that Paul talked about. And the kids qualified as well. And they came with us to South Africa 37 years after we'd left. And we went to Warm Baths as well as a family. And
I mean, what a huge achievement that is, Andy. Not only for you to achieve an all-paid event to go to South Africa to be part of the Global Rally, which is it's kind of a 6-7 day amazing event that Forever put on. But not only that, but your 2 children qualified and went with you. I mean, you must be so proud.
Oh, it was incredible. Incredible.
What memories, Paul and Andy, and you know,
Unbelievable.
Gary, you've got all this to come.
I know, I'm really excited about it. Really
You're
excited.
sitting here and listening to Andy and Paul. How does that make you feel?
Well, the excitement level was sort of, I was about here when I came on, obviously a bit nervous about talking, but I'm like up there now with the excitement about doing all this travel.
Yeah.
You know, with my family, my children are all grown up, and I'd love to be able to, you know, go to some of these places and you know, either bring them with me or come back and tell some great stories that they can tell their kids about what I've done with Forever.
You will do, because Forever, obviously, and at the moment nobody can travel, but Forever have got so many amazing venues booked. One of them is Sydney, Australia in 2022. And you know, imagine going surfing there.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a quick question, Gary. You know, obviously you're relatively new in the business. Tell me about the support, training, help, mentorship. How's that been for you?
Put it into words. I came into this business. I didn't really have a clue on the health and wellbeing sector. You know, I knew what health and wellbeing was, but to work with a business doing it, I didn't really have a clue. So when I came in, and still now, what amazed me is the amount of training that's there. You've got so much training that you can have as much as you like or as little as you want. And the coaching is there as well, you know. So like whenever I was stuck in anything that I was doing, I'd just get on the phone or arrange a meeting and speak to someone, and everything was there for me. It's just so easy, you know. I came into it thinking it was going to be really, really hard, which obviously it is hard to work, but like that question you just asked me, the training and the coaching is just so easy. It's there for you on the plate.
So a very quick question to all of you, and answer really quickly, because I've got another question before we run out of time. We've obviously experienced in the last 12 months, 10 to 12 months, a complete 360 turnaround on the way that everybody works and lives, not just us, but everybody on the planet. How have you managed your business, and what have you seen? How have you seen your business grow and develop in the last 12 months? Just very quickly, how's it been for you? We'll go to Andy first.
It's made you treat it straight away. We've been straight online, and it's just quick, so quick now. Whereas before we used to travel all over, none of that.
Yeah, so, and manageable as well online.
Yeah, all time.
A great simple system you just plug into and off you go.
Absolutely.
Paul, you've seen, like I have, the most changes. How's it been for you in the last year?
It was at the beginning. It was frightening a little bit, because I thought, wait a minute, this isn't how we do it. This isn't how I know how to do it. And I'm in my mid-50s, and I'm thinking, can I learn this stuff now? But all you've got to do, sit down. I mean, I've used YouTube and lots of things to find things out from a technology point of view and understand how to use it. But then, of course, what's happened is the leaders, we've all adapted ourselves so we can pass it down to our teams. So we've developed new ways of using the internet to do exactly what we used to do face to face. And it's actually quite enjoyable. You've just got to manage your time really well.
Yeah, yeah. And as Andy said, we haven't got to be driving all over the country, flying all over.
I bought a new car just before lockdown, literally just before lockdown. It's done 2,400 miles. I mean, it's...
that's it. I've got a brand new Porsche sitting out there in the garage. I've probably driven it about 6 times.
Exactly. They've done nothing.
Thought I'd just throw that one in.
As you do.
As you do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you all another question. Gary, as a newbie, and there's going to be lots of new people viewing this tonight and on replay, any advice you would have for a newbie, being quite new yourself?
Just do it. I like I said, coming to the business, especially now with what's going on and working just with a laptop or a smartphone, is so much easier. And you know, if you're anything like me and my family, it's given me more flexibility, and it's just beautiful working from a warm office rather than going out into my car and having to go and pick people up from all over the place. So yeah, I would recommend coming into this business, because like what we was just talking about, the training and the support is amazing. You know, that's what I love about business, really. And it's just like one great big family as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Gary. Andy?
I would say to anybody that's looking at this business, treat it like a business. If you treat it like a business, it pays. You treat it like a hobby, pick it up, put it down, it won't. And that's all I've taught the people in our team, and that's how I treat this business.
Brilliant. Great words of advice there, Paul.
I think just make sure if you're thinking of coming in or you're brand new, just make sure you get all of those questions in the back of your mind answered, and get them answered to a point where you're satisfied with the answer to move forward. And then from there, and especially now, Jane, for me, the massive change is you need to make sure that you remain authentic.
Yes.
Online, you actually expose yourself more than when you're face to face.
Yeah.
And because often when you're face to face, it's not recorded, is it ever? But these things stay around forever. So, and I think it's the only way anyway, Jane, is to be yourself.
Yeah.
Be authentic.
Yeah.
And give value to people in your teams when you have one, but give value to people that are looking at joining our amazing industry. You know, it is a fantastic industry. Just be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. And this will happen for you. No doubts about it.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And I think, you know, just to kind of bring this all together, I'm sure you'll all agree with me that the timing at the moment is absolutely perfect for people to, you know, to get involved and to learn a few key skills and begin to implement them on a daily basis, because we know that, you know, very quickly you can make an extra £200-400 a month by working with the product, and that takes the pressure off a lot of households. And then as you begin to grow and maybe begin to grow a team, we know you can make 800,000, 2,000 a month, and that, Paul, as you said, replaces almost the national average income.
Absolutely.
You know,
there's no question.
Yeah. And then, you know, as you get more confident, you learn the process, you can just begin to scale, because the whole essence of success in our industry is if you help enough other people achieve what's important to them, then everything you want will come to be. And I would just like to finish on saying that, you know, for me, the last 26 years has been a privilege. There are a lot of people out there right now who have been displaced, redundancies, furloughed. They've got no security long term. They don't know what the future holds for them. And all I can say, I hope tonight has given all the viewers kind of a view, you know, Gary, 18 months, Paul, 20 years, Andy and Angela, how many years?
18,
and me, 26. I hope that speaks to you, because that proves, in my eyes, in my humble opinion, that when you fully engage with the business, the opportunity and the process, then you are in for the most incredible journey, the most incredible ride. And that's why, Gary, I'm uber excited for you right now, because I know what's coming and I know what you're capable of. And I know that it's going to be a phenomenal few years for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited myself. Very, very.
So thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. It's been a pleasure. I could sit here and talk to you all night. I know that we've all got so much that you can share, but we are limited. And would you believe I've got to jump onto a call now to Cape Verde?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I've got about 20 people waiting to hear about the opportunity. And that, my friends, is the power of a global business. I can be sat here in my office chatting with you guys, and then as I leave, I can jump on another call and chat to somebody halfway across the world. And I think that the power of the global opportunity with Forever right now is perfect for everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
So stay safe, gents, and thanks for your time.
And you, Jane.
And we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.
See you later. See you later. Bye-bye.